Well, welcome to another Black History Conversations. I'm delighted that Sylvia Collicott's able to join us again. Absolutely excellent. It's lovely to have Dr. Jim Thagourian here as well. And Jim, we wish you all the very best with the challenges that I know you've got at the moment. We've also got two of the founders of Justice for Windrush Generations. We've got Garrick Prayog and we've got Roland Houslin. So absolutely delighted that you two are here with us today. We've also got Simon Fringo, who's our stalwart operating the IT, and Simon's from Belong Nottingham and does a lot of other interesting research into different aspects of things. So, Moqapi Selassie, we're also delighted that you're joining us from Tanzania, and Moqapi is one of our speakers. We're just waiting for our other speaker to join us, June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gulley. But we're just going to make a start then with the usual PowerPoint that I put together, and we'll see how that goes. So, right. So, welcome to the 75th Windrush Anniversary series of Black History Conversations. And as I said, especially today, because we're looking as the ship makes its journey of the North Atlantic, we're looking at finding out more about June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gulley's story. And also Moqapi is going to share more of his family research. And we've got some few other discussion points that we want to share as well. So that's really good. June Elizabeth is waiting to join us, so that's really good. So what I'm going to do now is ask for your patience, because we are exploring how to recognise the injustice of the actions taken by the British and other European countries to invade and take possession of the lands of the Caribbean islands, as well as the continents of North and South America. So I acknowledge that injustice. In addition, I recognise the horrors of the rape of Africa that destabilised those so many nations and peoples of that great continent and many other parts of the world in the centuries of colonialisation. When I'm presenting Black History Conversations from Australia, which I've done for the last 100-odd conversations, I also pay respect to the Indigenous people, the Wurundjeri people, where I am normally based, but I don't have to do that here because I'm in Leicester, and Leicester doesn't have a particular protocol for paying respect. So we're exploring this, and Garrick, we need to have some discussion about this before we go into the conference on the 22nd, because we need to be able to be quite clear, and we need to be able to say it in Welsh as well. So that'll be an interesting challenge for us. Right, okay. So we're now looking at, sure whether you can see all of this. So this is the North Wales Jamaica Society's Windrush 75 event, which Garrick's been helping me to pull together. And we're also going to have Roland there in Bangor on the 22nd of June. We've also invited Dr. Jim Thagourian. It would be wonderful if you could join us, Jim, this year on Zoom. A few years ago, I remember only too well sitting in Colwyn Bay Town Hall and your wonderful, insightful presentations that you made there. So this is our poster. So we've got in Welsh, Cyngor Dinas, means City Council in Welsh, Bangor City Council's logo. We've got the flag of the Windrush. Garrick, have you actually ordered the flag?
Did you not see the communication from Nigel Guy? We're just waiting for you to choose the size of the flag.
Okay, well, I haven't chosen it yet, so we need to
follow that. But there are different sizes, yeah.
The thing is that I've asked and we can't find a flagpole to put it up, so we
may need to think about the size that we can display. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The North Wales Jamaica Society. So Bangor City Council have very kindly given us some seed funding to get this going, because Race Council Cymru have just put out the the application forms for funding for the 22nd of June. So that has to be in tonight by midnight. So Garrick, I'll talk to you a bit more about our application. So I said 2023 is the 75th anniversary of the HMT Empire Windrush arriving in Britain on the 22nd of June 1948. So this is about joining in the celebration and recognition of our shared history. So that's the rather fussy promotion for that. And we're doing a whole day event in the morning. Garrick, Roland will talk about Justice for Windrush Generations and reference to the Wendy Williams recommendations and the issues all around that. And then we'll also have other speakers in the morning talking about Enrico Stennett and Karen Cross's dad, Mr. Mullings. We need to find out more about another lady whose daughter has opened a Jamaican restaurant in North Wales, and her granny, apparently her gran was on the Windrush. So we need to check that out with Bill Hearn and his list of passengers on the Windrush. So that'll be really interesting. Then so peanut porridge first for breakfast, then a morning about Windrush, then lunch with pumpkin soup and Jamaican patties, followed by an afternoon session which will begin to develop the civic links between the city of Bangor, North Wales, and the city of Maypen. So that's all in the pot at the moment. Then we're going to have a jolly good Jamaican meal cooked by a good friend called Maggie. She's Nigerian, but she cooks all sorts of food and she can do Jamaican food. So she's going to do an evening meal. I think we've decided about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then we're going to do an evening of activities starting about 7 for people who've missed the day. And that'll probably be for teachers, mainly teachers. So that should be interesting. So it's going to be a hybrid session. And Jim, if you're joining us in the morning, then we'll make the morning also hybrid, so people know what they're doing. Okay, so that's what we're doing, North Wales Jamaica Society.
June Elizabeth is here now, Liz.
Oh, that's wonderful. Right, okay. Just to say, this is the last thing then. Preparatory justice for the descendants of enslaved plantation workers. This is the talk I gave here at the University of the West Indies and the University of Leicester International Conference, hosted by the School of Criminology. And the title of the week is Crime, Injustice and Human Rights Summer School. So I talked about the Penance Project. Right, now we're going on to introduce June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gulley. Are you there then, June? We've got
Good afternoon, everyone.
Wonderful. Now, I'm not going to read all your wonderful, illustrious list here.
No, that'd be the end of the presentation.
That would be the end of the presentation. So I'll stop sharing at that point. Moqapi is going to come in and talk about the in-betweeners lately. And June Elizabeth, I'm now going to try and find your PowerPoint.
So while we're there, I'm going to be having Garrett interacting with me.
Good. So I'm going to hand over to you too, and you just let me know when you want the presentation. Okay. Yeah.
It's about 20 minutes in total, I believe, the presentation, and it's roughly about 9 to 10 questions that will come out of the presentation.
Wonderful. Over to you then.
So Gareth is going to, Gareth will introduce me.
Yes.
So questions to keep me on track.
Sure. I will do that. So it's my pleasure to introduce June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gulley to deliver this presentation on a Windrush journey, a brief journey, but it's also a personal journey of growing up in Northampton as a Windrush generation person. So she will present to us some slides, and then out of those slides, there will be some questions. So please, June Elizabeth, can we have the first slide as an introduction to your subject?
I think I'm doing the slides, am I?
Yes, please.
Yes, you are, Liz. Thank you.
Mm.
And this side of it.
Share screen. Have we got the right ones, June Elizabeth? Just tell me
That's
when you
correct, yes.
That's the one, yeah. Mm.
Right, lovely. Welcome also from me to you, June Elizabeth, and I'm really looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll just start by introducing why I am here. Because of these two people, my mother, my late mother and father.
Right.
The screen has come off. Yes, my late mother and father, Aubrey and Gwendolyn White. Now, both left Jamaica in September of 1954, going their different directions. My mum came as a Windrush nurse to go to Colchester, and my dad, he had a shoe business in Kingston, even though he originated from Manchester, Jamaica, and he went up north to Hull. But his aunt said to him he needs to be in Northampton because that's the shoe capital. So on the way, he done a Walter Raleigh and helped my mum keep warm with his coat. So they kept in touch, and in less than a year, they were married. And this is a picture. This is the first Windrush wedding in Northampton, Jamaican wedding, and that was on August the 6th, 1955. In Northampton, they had a paper called The Independent. And in The Independent, there's a picture of the wedding with all the bridesmaids, and there's a subtitle that says, "An unusual wedding because the bridal party were all Jamaicans." So when my parents came here, there was only about 5 black people here. I think one was an African gentleman. So those friends came from Birmingham and London to support the wedding. My mother is one of 10 children. She's never had anyone from her family live in England. So her father-in-law, uncle-in-law came from Birmingham to give her away. So that's how I'm here today. So I'm the second child born. My brother, he was the first black boy born. Sadly, he's passed away. So that's introduction of my parents.
Next one.
Number 2, yeah.
Yes, you can move it on. Yeah, they're cutting the cake.
Yeah. Carry on. Yeah. Yeah. Just stop there for a moment.
Thank you.
So that's June Elizabeth. Can you just tell us about this slide, please?
Well, this slide was taken in 2010 when I was confirmed, but you might not be able to see the back of behind me, but that says St. Giles Church of England. Yes. Now I go to Christchurch and I go to Abbey Baptist. So at Christchurch, because a lot of people don't go to church anymore, when they're going to have confirmation, they do it in a group and they rotate the churches. So now this happened to be, I was confirmed at the church that my mum and dad were married. And when I was christened at this church in 1958, across the road was the vicarage. And that was my first home, because when my parents came to Northampton, it was very difficult as a black couple to get somewhere to live. So the vicarage had 3 separate flats that they used for enterprise. So my mum and dad were given a flat at the vicarage. So my first home was across the road from this church that they were married, that I was christened. And how many years later, the next decade, when the group confirmation could have been at any church, but it was at St. Giles Church of England, where my parents were born and I was christened. So that's significant to me as well.
Next one, Liz, please.
So this is a picture of my maternal grandparents, my mum and dad, my mum's parents, and they lived in Kingston. So my grandma, she had a bit of Indian in her, but she was a housewife. She had 10 children. And my grandfather, he was a charge nurse at Bellevue Hospital, which that's equivalent to being a male sister. And I think Garrett might know a bit about Bellevue Hospital.
Yes, I do. Yeah, we used to call it the asylum place.
Yes, that's it. Yes. And, you know, not making fun of anybody who's got mental health, but my grandfather, he used to kind of share something that was funny, that, you know, you could smile at, with his family. And he said there was a gentleman that had been there so many years that they said it's time for him to come out. He is well. He's been in there so long. So they said to him, right, we're going to let you out tomorrow, but we want you to do a role play, like get ready for tomorrow. And he done everything. He had a wash, got dressed. And when he put on his clothes, he realized that he hadn't had a shave. So he took off back his shirt and he shaved himself. Now, so you had 50-50. Some of the medical staff said him no ready, some saying more than ready, right? So when him take off his shirt and put on him, you know, like shaving cream, and take him thing and shave up himself, then the ones who thought he weren't ready were looking at the other ones and saying, well, you know. So the next day now, he remembered to shave and then put on him clothes. So they all were looking there. So the ones that didn't think he was ready, right, before he put his clothes on, while he was shaving, they moved the mirror. And he said, Lord Jesus, my neck, where my neck gone? Where my neck? So they said, no, he's not ready, you know? So
because he couldn't see himself. He couldn't see himself.
No. So he thought his neck had come off, you know? And then there was another one where there was a gentleman, he never drank water. He never ever drank water. And when the postman came back and told him what had happened, he said when he delivered the post, him see Mr. So-and-so come out the gate. So him riding bicycle, and every time him ride, the man kind of walk faster. And when him pedal, the man run after him. So him said when him pedal and turn left and right, him end up in what we call a cul-de-sac, a dead end. And the madman's coming behind him. And he just put his hand, come off his bicycle and put his hand upon the wall and said a prayer to Jesus. And the madman come to him and he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a ticket of gun again. And he's playing fleas, he's playing game. And the same speed he chased the postman, he run back to the hospital. They never missed him. But when he went back, he was so dry, he asked for a glass of water. And they thought, that's strange, he never drinks any water. Now, the poor postman, he was so frightened that he couldn't get back on his bike, but he had to push the bike back to Bellevue to let them know what had happened. And then they realised it was true because he was asking for a drink of water. Okay, so that's my granddad and my grandma, and I was very lucky to meet them. And this is my paternal grandparents. This grand lady, she was the one that makes me who I am. We went to Jamaica and we lived with them in 1963, the year after Jamaica's independence. We moved back to Jamaica. So whereas our gentleman that's coming on next, Moqapi's going to tell us about the left behinds, right? It was a reversal for me. I was born here And then I was left behind in Jamaica because my dad was in England, my mum was in Trelawney, and we were in a place called Lichfield, right? So my grandma Brian, she took us to school, and she took us to Sunday school. And when my brother and myself went to Sunday school, we honestly thought they were talking another language. We didn't know what they were saying, because in England we sang, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, a sunbeam, a sunbeam. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. But they were saying Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, Deuteronomy. And we didn't know. We thought they were talking another language. We didn't know they were saying the 39 and 45 books of the Bible. That's how they introduced themselves into Sunday school. And they were younger than us. You with me? Mm-hmm. So my grandma, she was a very faithful person, you know, and the first thing she said when she saw myself and my brother and my sister, and I never forgot it, she ran down this red brick house, because that was the first house in the village to be bricked, you know, concrete. And she put her hand up and she said something from the Bible, my eyes have seen the coming of the salvation of the Lord. And I never ever knew why she said that, but she was told that she didn't have long to live. And she, even though she knows she would never see her firstborn, that's my father, again, right? She always prayed. So the fact that she saw her grandchildren, his children, she was very grateful to God. So she lived for 18 months, and then that's when we came back to Jamaica. So I went to school in Jamaica, but when I went to school, I went to Bethany, near Gulley in Manchester. And, you know, they said, tell us about England. So I didn't leave my winter boots. Those days, winter boots were like rubber boots with like cotton wool in. And it might seem strange, you know, some children are attached to their blanket. My parents couldn't get me to leave my winter boots. I had to take them with me to Jamaica. So they wanted to see the winter boots, you know, so they thought it was very strange and funny. But when I came back to England at 7.5 years old, I really thought the children, I thought everything was really crazy. Because because I'd just come back from Jamaica, I was automatically put into the B class. And then by the end of the week, I was in the A class, where I stayed until I finished my education. But what surprised me was that the teacher was shouting at the children. I'm not going to shout, but this is what she was saying. Will you be quiet, please? And she was shouting so much, her face was very red. And I thought, oh dear, in Jamaica, a teacher would never have to shout. She would never have to tell you to be quiet. Because when the teachers came in, you stood up you stood up and you were quiet. You know, old England, that's the schooling that we had. So going to Jamaica, that was like a university, a young university, 18 months of scholar. And coming back here, it made me miles ahead. So even though there was institutional racism, I passed my 11 plus, I wasn't allowed to go to grammar school. It did me okay. I went to practically all white school. You could count the black people on one hand, and I was head girl of an all white school, you know, and that's how I went through my schooling because of Jamaica. And when the ship pulled into the harbour, because my brother was the only person I knew going to school that had the same colour skin as myself, I thought something was terribly wrong. I couldn't understand it, you know. We all know about the Robertson marmalade with the little gollywogs on. So, you know, children are not very nice at time. So when I went to bed, I always prayed, added on, please God, let me be white in the morning. But you see, when that ship pulled into Kingston Harbour, and I saw some children that looked like me, lighter and darker, I said, nothing was wrong, I do belong. And that gave me the confidence, you know? As Marcus Garvey said, from you got confidence, your battle is halfway run. Thank you.
Wow.
That's lovely, right.
Really interesting, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think we've got some more slides, but I've just managed to lose them at the moment.
Yeah,
so-
you're at number 8 now, Liz.
Yes, let me just
8 and 9. Yeah.
let me just find where they've disappeared. I do
So,
apologize.
so while are you looking at that?
Here we are.
Yes, so you
There
can.
we are. Just a minute. Let me just get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
carry on, June Elizabeth.
Yes, I was going to say you can just look and see. I'm the only black person there. That's my school photograph in the 60s. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just told you.
Here's you. Here's you.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see me. Yeah. Okay. So, I've got the evidence to prove what I'm talking about. So we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, I'm mindful of the time because Moqapi's
Okay.
got to come on.
Oh, right. Okay.
My mother, as I mentioned, she came to be she was a Windrush nurse. She never finished her training. So I always said to my grandfather in Jamaica, I would always, this was my maternal grandfather, I'm going to do 2 lots of training, Grandpa. So that's me in my orthopedic training uniform. And then when I left orthopedics, I went to St. Thomas's in London. Now, growing up, I only knew Ladybird books that had Florence Nightingale in. I loved that Ladybird book. I got one upstairs, right? And I read it and read it. So when I'd done anything at school, any projects, so normally around medical history, I never knew about Mary Seacole. I'd love to have had a lady book on Mary Seacole. So when I left there, of course, I went to Florence Nightingale's School of Nursing, and it was called the Nightingale School of Nursing. So I've got a badge. I'm a Nightingale. Yeah, so I did do what I promised my granddad. I got 2 different qualifications in nursing. Now, I had a dream, and I woke up, and all these policemen were around me. So when I come to Northampton, I told my dad, and then he's got a friend who's a police officer, and he came and I had a drink with him. And I said, you know what, I think I'm going to join Northampton Police Force. You know why? They have no black police officers in Northamptonshire. So now I'm going to see what they're going to give me the reason why I cannot join. The reason they said was that most of the ones that might be able to pass the test, they're not old. They're too old. And if they're young enough, they can't pass the test or they can't pass the medical. So I'm going to put a challenge now. I've got 2 lots of letters after my name. If I'm well enough to nurse people, they can't say I'm not well enough to join. So the next slide there, Liz.
Right, just a minute. There you are.
So you can see me marching out of Babylon. All right. That's a passing out parade. So that parade is, you got Birmingham, you got lots of people in the West Midlands, right? So you can see me marching there. My friend who was in the army in Ireland, he flew over and took some pictures. So I was Northamptonshire's only black police officer. Somebody said to me, woman. I said, no, I wasn't the only black woman police officer. There were no men. I was the first and only black police officer, and my name was WPC 809 White. Now, in the force, if your name's White, they call you Chalky White. But we had a white guy named White, so we couldn't have 2 Chalky Whites. So I was known as Snowy. In them days, it was okay, they say. If you come from Ireland, you were Paddy. Wales, you were Taffy. Scotland, you was a Jock. Yeah. So talking now to somebody said, oh, my nickname was Snowy. They say, oh my goodness gracious. You know what I mean? So being in the police force has its own presentation. So we'll move on. I went back to nursing because out of uniform and change of hairstyle, they didn't recognise me and they assaulted my brother, put him on 12 charge because I wouldn't write what they said. And they had 8 police witnesses, 5 policemen. And when I went into court and saw my mum crying at 10 to 4, I knew I'm going to go and eat porridge and they're going to do me for perjury, even though I'm telling the truth. So fast forward, in the end, they didn't get their fish and chips that night because I told them I don't need to read anything because I can tell him as it was. And they found him not guilty on 11 out of 12. And I took the 12th case to court, Crown Court, and freed my brother at the age of 22. I stood up against 8 police witnesses and freed my brother, went back to nursing. Yeah. Okay. So the chief constable sent a message, because I always came home once a month, so my son would know his family in Northampton. I lived in London, and the chief officer sent that same gentleman, a friend of my dad's, and he said, "We want you back in the police force. We cannot afford to have you out here with your brains. So therefore, if you come back, you'll just go up. You won't be long going up the ladder. You can buy any house, any car. You won't have to wait for a council house." So I went back to London. I didn't join back the police force. So fast forward, these are some of the people that I present as Black History. So everybody on this platform is very well know about Black History. So I don't have to tell you who they are. But I'd like to mention that I knew Bob Marley personally, and it was a lovely encounter. I've also managed to write a book, Black British History. They got 60 studies were called for from the University of Northampton about 10 years ago. And they said, "How you got Bob Marley into Black British history?" Well, his grandparents were British. So I done an academic and a personal together to get him in, be selected as one of the 13 studies to make the Black British History book. And that be presented another time when we do a book. So you can move on, Lizzie. So that's a book that I'm going to give to Liz tomorrow on my birthday. This is the book, Lizzie.
Birthday.
Tomorrow, when I
Yeah.
see you for the first time. So that book is called Sharing the Past.
Yeah.
And it's got Black history in Northamptonshire from Doomsday to the present day. And it covers not just African Caribbean, but it's South Asian as well. And I was a welcoming speaker at the launch of that book in the Central Library. I do believe it might have been 2008, but you'll know the year, because when I addressed the audience, I said, this is a historical week. It started with Lewis Hamilton being Britain's winning the Grand Prix, the first man of colour. And then the Tuesday, it was Mr. Obama. He came in as the president of you-know-where, United States. And then on the Thursday now, Northamptonshire is launching their first Black History book, Sharing the Past. And a copy of this was sent as an inauguration present to Mr. President Obama. So we can move on. Thank you. You're going backwards, I think.
No.
The next slide. No, you've gone to the last slide now. No, okay. Yes. So if you look here, you have to look clearly. Maybe another time you get a better picture. That is, I belong to the Mary Seacombe Memorial Association. Every year we have an annual wreath laying service, normally the first Saturday of, or the second Saturday of May. It was postponed this year to the next Saturday because of the coronation. So that was years ago, right? And that's Mary Seacob's tomb. And I took a coach load of people from Northampton down, and the lady was an orange scarf. She was the Deputy Jamaica High Commission, and she's my cousin's sister-in-law. And you can see me with my Bob Marley bag. But the lady on the left, very interesting lady, Mrs. Cleghorn, she's an original Windrusher, and she's Bob Marley's cousin. Okay, so we'll move on, because every slide's got its own story. And I think that was 2010. I was awarded the Heart of the Community Award. So I was the first person of African Caribbean. It's a new award to be awarded that. The 5 people get it, and I was one of the 5. So we can, for my services to the community, right? So I believe, yeah, we're just coming near the end. So if I don't know if you can get that. It says, do you want to read it? Garrett, can you read it?
Yeah, it says, follow your dream, have faith in yourself, reach for the sky, aim for the stars, no matter how high, just follow your dream. They're waiting for you, and you're the one who can make them come true.
Thank you. And the last slide, Liz.
Walk by faith. Yeah, that's a nice pair of shoes.
I think there might be another slide. I'm not sure. Is there another one?
No, that's
Yeah.
the last one.
It. Yeah,
Yeah.
the end. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for listening.
Yeah.
Wow,
good.
thank you.
Yeah. So what's our time like, Liz? Do we have time for some questions?
Well, just 5 minutes, and then
Okay.
Moqapi's still with us, and we want to move on
No,
to his
no problem.
presentation.
So I'm just going to ask Sister June Elizabeth just to tell us, growing up in Northampton, you know, what was it like as a young girl?
I'm going to tell you the truth. We didn't have much money. A lot of people who were immigrants didn't have much money, and the fact that I lived where there wasn't many black people, but weekends I used to go where the black people were, and initially I had to really do a lot of fighting because they didn't want black people in the area. They didn't want black people at their school, but I'm glad to have been brought up them 18 months in Jamaica. Then I realised after 6 months, oh, June White's not a bad person. It's better be on her side than be against her, you know. So it's funny because my son, he's one of his children's godfather. Their mum and me went to school together. She's in the school picture, you know. So it's always good not to burn your bridges.
True. And can I just ask you, in terms of Black history, your favorite Black history character or the person who have inspired you throughout your life? Is it,
Well,
if you can bring it down, there may be more than one, but the one.
I would say Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. Tell us why.
His music, right, has the message, and I look at him as a outer national. Yeah, it's like when you say you overstand, you more than understand. So he's more than international, and he was a extra superstar. He went to Italy and he drew more crowd than the Pope. So what does that say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, thank you very much, June Elizabeth, for your presentation and an insight into your family and growing up into a foreign place, because it was a foreign place at the time. It's now home to you. And, I'm sure we'll talk about some other stories coming out of this, particularly around what you've been doing for the community in Northampton. But for the moment, we've got to thank you for your presentation. And I know it's your birthday tomorrow, so can we wish you happy birthday so that you and Cliff will enjoy the day together.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Frock, June Elizabeth, so we'll just be a treat together there, stars of the show. Lovely, thank you so much, June Elizabeth, absolutely fantastic, and thank you, Garrett, for leading on the questions there. Right, now, Moqapi, we're going to move on quite quickly. Moqapi, are you there?
I'm here, I am.
Right, well, if I press the right button, we might find the PowerPoint, but I haven't pressed the right button, obviously, so I need to get organized here. Come on, Liz, get your act together. Zoom, share the screen. Ta-da! So Moqapi is joining us from Tanzania. I'm just glad the connection's kept kept going. Moqapi, that's really good. Moqapi and I have worked together and been good friends for a whole long time. And Moqapi is going to tell us about the Left Behind Us, part 2. Okay, is that all right, Moqapi?
Yeah. We'll just go with the flow. Yeah. Well, greetings everyone. June Elizabeth. That was a fantastic presentation. I like
Yeah.
the photographic. You know what I mean, the way you did it with the photographs. It was really good, and I think I might nab the idea and integrate it into mine. But brilliant. Okay. All right. The Left Behind Us. The Left Behind Us. There's 2 parts. There could have been 3, but I thought no, knock it on the head. Before we get too far. In the first one, part 1, we covered questions asked. Intro, that was about myself. My parents came from Jamaica in 1954. My dad came first. My mom came 8 months later. They'd left 7 children in Jamaica. And then when they came over to England, they had 3 more children. They came over in 1954. I was born in 1956. So I'm the first one born in England, a Windrush Picnic. And I got 2 younger sisters. And basically the study, in inverted commas, covered 13 of my family, brothers, sisters, nephew, niece, and cousin. And so in the first part, I'd done the lucky ones. The lucky ones were the ones who were left behind, and they were brought up by relatives who treated them well. The unlucky ones are those that were not treated well. They stated it was like slavery. That was the unlucky ones. The School of Hard Knocks is basically what I termed the Jamaican brought up way of bringing up the children. In the morning, they got up early, went and did yard duties, fetching water miles away, tending to the animals, doing all that before they then went off to school. And they had to be neat and tidy to go to school. And they could not arrive late. And then when they left school, go back home, do their yard duties again, do whatever homework they needed to do, and then bed, and then go again. So I call that the School of Hard Knocks, where they learn to sew, cook, iron, all those things that you need to do in house, and that's usually by the age of 10-year-old. And then coming to England, their viewpoints on actually coming to England, what it was like, was it, compared to their expectations, what was it actually like? And that's why I ended part 1. And then in part 2, look, press the button, Liz. Yep, estrangement. This was the first area I looked at. And there's a quote from one of my cousins. I was very excited at meeting my parents. I just wanted to be loved. At the airport, I remember hugging Mom. This is my mom and dad. I just wanted their affection. Time went by and the excitement went. They didn't know how to show affection. I used to think, are they really my parents? I didn't feel a connection. It must have been a mistake. That's my female cousin. And that's what she thought. Then there's a definition: having lost former closeness and affection in a state of alienation from a previous close or familial relationship. Of the 13 interviewed, only 1 of them didn't express estrangement from their parents. Next one. Many of the Jamaican-born children forming bonds of love and affection with their auntie, grandmother, grandparents. That is a person who looked after them in the formative years of their childhood. They also told how hard it was to bond with their parents after being separated for so long. More. It could be argued that some of the left behinders didn't form close and affectionate relationships with their parents in the first place. For instance, my sister, who was left at 13 months, didn't know her or our mother at all until she met her when she was 12 years old. Boom. Quote from my nephew: no one said sorry. Everyone who goes through this it leaves a scar that can never heal. When you don't get love from your mother and father, it's bad and it can never be reclaimed. The ones that suffer the most are the ones that are left back home. And that's my nephew. I think then I'll go into his story. We don't have to go through that now, Lisa, if you don't mind. Depending on the time. Basically, he was never really accepted into the family. So he was brought up in the beginning by his maternal grandmother with all my brothers and sisters. So that was when he was a lucky one. And then when they all went their separate ways and given to different relatives or friends, he ended up with his father, his grandparents on his father's side. And then he became an unlucky one, so to speak, and wasn't treated well. Yeah. You can go again. And again, yeah, he says it was like slavery. On the bottom of the day, you can see he got no financial support from his parents in England. So his parents in England was my elder sister and her husband. And yeah, he says he had no picture of his parents and no address. He didn't know what they looked like. He sees his situation as not being fair, as his big sister was sent for and was over in England and he was left behind. Also, his parents had no photos of him. Yeah, it's like back in the day, it's very true. It's like we were over in England, and we knew that our brothers and sisters were in Jamaica, but we never had any photographs of them or like photographs of my grandparents or anything like that. Next one, Liz.
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry, that was me. His mother passed. Yeah, this is estrangement. It's not stopped when he came over to England. So even when he came over to England, he still felt and was reunited with his family, mother, father, sister, and he discovered that there were 3 more sisters who were born in England. That estrangement still continued, the way that they treated him. Yep, let's go. So his mother, that's my sister, passed in 2014 and begged for forgiveness on her deathbed for the way she had treated him. He doesn't speak to his father and his 2 English sisters, and one of his sisters passed in 2020. Right, so one of the things that I discovered in inverted commas is that there are different things that traumatize individuals within a family setting, and that separation was one of them for him. Okay, he speaks to his sister who was born in Jamaica and presently suffers from angina. Next, left behind her. In this mini survey, there is one genuine left behind her. My 61-year-old niece, who is still in Jamaica right now. She met her mother, that's my sister, once in her life for 3 hours. She also met one of her younger sisters on the same visit, and that sister has now passed. Next slide, please. The relationship between mother and daughter is strained. At present, they are not talking to each other. My niece states that she is the one who always calls her mother, and that her mother thinks she only calls her for money, which she states is not the case. Next. What she said is she just wants some form of relationship with her mom, and it's not about the money. A chance to talk and to get to know each other. She said that she's felt excluded from her family on both sides, on the father's side and also on her mother's side, all of her life. And she pointed out that she learned of her sister's death from someone in church, not from her mother. Next. Please.
Yeah, she said the best thing that happened.
Yeah. She said the best thing that happened in her life was a COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. Do you remember it? Anyway, because that was when her mother's side of the family, myself included, got in contact with her. Speaking to her over the years, it's apparent that she is so happy to be in contact with her sisters, uncles, aunties, and to be included in the family. Next. Okay, and then there's the Jamaican born versus England born saga, trauma, whatever. The ones born in England definitely received different treatment. The ones who came from Jamaica were treated like slaves. That phrase came over and over again from different ones. Looking after the younger ones. I never had a childhood. In all of my life, I never had a toy. Niece. Next one. But when they were asked the question, do you think those children born in England were treated differently? All of the respondents answered yes. Next one, please. In the Windrush families in the UK, there is a divide between those children born in England and those children born in Jamaica stroke Caribbean. Many might not see it or even feel it, but yes, it exists. It exists because of the way, and this is me, I don't know, pontificating or theorizing, because of the way those children are socialized. Next, yeah. The children that were born in the UK had their parents with them all the time, so the bonds were able to grow and be maintained. The children who were born in Jamaica, their parents left them for a period of time, and so the mother-child and father-child bond was broken or didn't get firmly established. Fast forward some years, and when the children that came over met their parents, they were teenagers. The formative years had gone, and many had developed maternal and paternal bonds with other family members. Dum, da, dum, dum. Moreover, the children didn't know their parents and vice versa, so it was difficult to develop loving, caring relationships with each other. This also manifested in the way that they were treated. The Jamaican children assumed, or should that be, were assigned the position of looking after and caring for their younger siblings. This was usually the plight of the females. In doing this, they felt cheated. They were cheated of their childhood and felt unappreciated and resentment. My other female cousin, I got a lot of female cousins, reasoned that it was like a class system within her family, a bit like upstairs, downstairs. That shows my age. The England born, or the English born, were the upper class, and the Jamaicans the lower class. She added that things a younger sister could say and get away with, she could never dream of saying, and that she had to be home straight from school, but her young sister had no such curfews. My cousin that grew up in London, another female, pointed out that the Jamaican born were treated differently. She said that her mother wouldn't sign the forms for her to go to college, but her English born siblings had no such problems. My sister reasoned that although she was good at athletics and netball and could have taken it further, and that she wanted to go to college, our parents thought differently. She felt our parents, for whatever reason, played the children up against each other. Interesting theory. My father would often say to the Jamaican born, "Why can't you be like the ones who born in England?" Wow, what a thing to say. Anyway, yeah, next area was gender. So basically out of that, where I saw that kind of division, and then did the gender thing, looked at it a bit deeper, I suppose. While interviewing my family members, I found that there was a gender divide that had occurred in the bringing up of the children. Gosh, make a lot of assumptions. Anyway, the girls, young women that came over were drafted into the bringing up of their younger siblings. It was as if they had become the mothers of their brothers and sisters. This happened in most Jamaican Caribbean families. It was quite apparent that my parents had said, "Ooh, is that it?"
Moqapi, could you just give me a moment, and perhaps some other people might like to reflect on things with you? Can you just talk amongst yourselves for a minute?
Yes, can do that.
Garrick, okay, over to you.
That's fine. Just picking up a couple of points from your presentation, particularly around the different treatment of children coming in from Jamaica and those that already been in the UK. I can understand that sort of resentment, because of course, the one that was born here almost have a bonding with their parents. The one coming from outside have to establish that, and sometimes that bond never really established, because there's reason why, why did you leave me, and why did you do this, and grandma didn't do this, or auntie did this, and so there's all those issues that certainly would cause resentment. So that is true to life. I know many families where that is the case. And you also mentioned this affection. It is true that, and it's not just in Caribbean family where the affection of touching and holding doesn't exist. It's a big issue in terms of emotional contact. And there are many people who say, well, my parents never cuddled me, never held me. My dad will never, because they had this thing that, particularly boy children had to almost have a personality that doesn't require emotion, doesn't require crying. You must be hard and firm. And I don't know where that stuff came from, but it's there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Garrick.
Yeah.
They would say, they say he's a boy picnic.
Yes.
Dry up the tears.
Same
You're
way.
going
Same
like
way.
gal. You're going
Yes.
like gal picnic.
Yeah. And I have seen that all the time, and it's not a historic thing. It's even now in 2023 it happens. But I think that point about the emotional connection, that touching, that embracing, that holding, we all need to work at that.
Yeah, Garrick is like funnily enough, there's I think it's an old calypso, but I heard it in a dancehall context, where they say hugging up is against the law. We don't dance like that anymore, right? And so if you even look in the context that when we were young and we went for a dance, one of the highlights of the dance, going for a dance, was dancing with a woman, dancing with a girl. You know what I mean? A little rubber dub in the corner, you understand what I'm saying? Right? And you had the phenomenon of the blues dance, and then certain hours in the blues dance, after they played all this, the music to get you jumping up and down, right? Then you had, like lovers.
Yeah,
And
slow down.
Sorry, yeah, slow down. And it's also interesting that what is it? Lovers Rock.
Yeah.
Right, was mainly developed over in England.
That's right.
If you understand what I'm saying, you know what I mean? The Lovers Rock phenomenon was really an English input into reggae music. Right, so there was that. But nowadays, if you go to a dance, they don't hug up anymore. If you understand what I'm saying, there's no hugging up, there's not like that, man's going out to go and, see if we can get a girl tonight or that kind of, I don't know, maybe it is, but not dancing, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay, folks, I'm back. Right, off you go. The coffee. Sorry about that.
It's all right, no problems, Liz, you're good. Yes, it's still in the gender. It was quite apparent that my parents had set views about the gender roles within the family. And I think it was not only just my parents, it was just like generally, amongst African Caribbean families, there was, the male role, the female role, and, the children were to, going to, be molded into that. so to speak. And I think this mindset came from the way they were brought up in Jamaica. So they were brought up like that, and their parents, you know, grandparents. So it's just like down the line kind of thing. Next one, please, Liz. Children were to be seen and not heard. There was children were to be seen and not heard. They were told respect their elders, get a job, and eventually have and provide for their own family. This was what governed the rural communities in Jamaica at that time. Although the males were also taught to wash, cook, iron, sew, clean the house, get water, tend the animals, etc., their main roles were to become the chief breadwinner when they grew up. The male's training was so that they could look after themselves. The woman's role to bear children and be good housewives, which was looking after the children and the husband. In coming to England, this narrative got disrupted because both the father and mother needed to work to raise enough money to cover the expenses of renting a house in England, paying for the children back home in Jamaica, and whatever loans they had secured to make their journeys possible. What did this mean? It meant all hands on deck.
Mm.
Those children who were eligible to work were to get jobs. Those who were at school were to study, but also to help with their newly discovered brothers and sisters. This meant after coming from school, they would cook the dinner and ensure the house was neat and tidy for when the parents came home. My two sisters who came over in 1966 had me and my two younger sisters to deal with, and also our nephews and nieces. They both stated that they never had a childhood. My cousin who grew up in London and moved to Stevenage said she didn't have a childhood because she had her 3 siblings to look after, and that it was as if she was their mom. Coming to England from Jamaica was a culture shock for both parents and children. The 60s and 70s were times when the role of women in general was being questioned. The traditional role of the British woman to stay home and look after the children and tend to the home was being disrupted as the economy required not only a male workforce but a female workforce too. This new dynamic, the changing roles of women, also played out in the Caribbean families as they strive to navigate their ways through the British society. Summary. Come to the end. 75 years after the adoption of the SS, I'm gonna have to change that because it's not an SS. I've seen that it's a HM something or another now. Windrush in Tilbury Docks. It could be argued that the traditional African Caribbean family has been decimated. That in itself would need a more intensive study than this to find out what the hell happened. What happened? Anyway, this project, The Left Behinders, has been Liz, it's been a revelation, Liz. A revelation to it has opened my eyes to so many topics that this brief saute unfurled. Trauma. Remember we did trauma with is it Hillary Hickling?
Yes.
Right? Forgiveness. Because that came up with my sisters and my nieces that no matter how I'm a cousin, no matter how they were treated as women, you know what I mean? They forgive their parents because they didn't know better and so on and so on. And what could they really do anyway, etc. Love. We need much more love. Self-concept, racial concept, topics I could not go into here, but might very well pursue in the future. And that was it. Thanks for your time. Oh, acknowledgements. Oh, hang on. Let's read this. Phew. Where do I start? Thanks, Liz. Where do I start?
This an awful long time ago. We couldn't do it then. So we just had to bring it in now.
Firstly, all praise is due to the Most High Rastafari, Selassie, and Empress Menin. Family, the Selassie family, the Senior Gibbs McNeish families. Also a special shout out to our brother Seymour Innocent Sr., affectionately known as Dennis, who passed in January 2023. He contributed to this project and always strived to get the family together. Also, special shout out to Liz Millman of Learning Links International for letting me know of this project and showing patience as I strive to complete it. Give thanks, bliss. I didn't say anything about Apti World. Big up Apti, yeah.
Big up Hapty Bowls.
Thank you very much, Moqapi.
Thank you. I was
Yeah.
going to try and swing it if I could read this poem, but I don't know if we got
Yes,
time.
I think you can swing it to read this poem. We'd love
Okay,
that.
thanks, Liz. It's called It Bad, and it's a Windrush rhyme, and it's dedicated to all of the Windrush generation. It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? I know business, I have to make a statement. From I people first come to England is a hostile environment. Because back in the Caribbean islands, ones were told that the streets of England paved with gold. But when them reach here, lo and behold, them buck up racism, discrimination, and the freezing cold. And the way that them treat we is like them not have no soul. Them not have no soul. Them not have no soul. It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? A long time now, them are disrespect. Because after for them so-called World War II, England was one big bomb peck. So them go to the Caribbean and call upon them loyal British subjects to come work, good wages can collect, and a better standard of living them a go get. When them reach here, and nothing like what them need expect, them find themselves in a situation where man and woman who did have them good education, pass matriculation and get them qualification, I work as lawyer, doctor, tailor, nurse, dressmaker, businessman and businesswoman. End up at the factory work, nursing, bus conductor, work on railway or as a garbage man in a England, Wales and Scotland. It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? You know how much this earth, after 40 years in the country, go to school, college and work, to find out, say, them burn the paperwork, and you have to go find your own paperwork to prove that you have a right to be here. Status gone, job gone, access to the NHS gone, and some go a detention center and a fly them gone to a land them no know since 19 how long. Them ya injustice ya, no galang. It a go cause a political storm. Oh, you mean keep calm? It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation? It bad, man. It terrible, man. What the British government do the Windrush generation?
Oh, Moqapi, that was fantastic.
I like that. I like that. Very
That's
poignant.
Just fantastic. Just
It's
fantastic.
true. It's true.
As-
Everything you say is
thank
true. It
Yeah.
bad. It bad. Really terrible. It bad.
So
We have to send
Moqapi,
that to the. We have to send that to the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary.
yes, we will. Well, maybe now that we can operate on Zoom and things, and now that Moqapi is coming back to the UK later on this summer, Moqapi will be able to perform live.
Mhm.
And I think, Moqapi, you talked about your one-man shows, and I think now's the time for you to have a show, which is It's Bad, Man.
Yeah,
And
true.
could wrap up the whole of your show, couldn't it?
Mm.
As you give examples of thinking ahead, Garrick here, because we're just writing the funding bid today, aren't we?
Mm.
What about if we got Moqapi to write something and we produced it?
Yeah. Yeah.
As a show.
Yeah.
Towards the end of August, could you be back by then, wouldn't you, Moqapi? Moqapi, I can't hear you.
Gone at the beach.
Gone down the beach, Moqapi?
No, not gone down the beach, just never unmuted the mic.
Will you be back here by August of this year in the UK?
Yeah, I will be.
Well, that will work then, Liz. Hmm?
Okay then, so Moqapi, so we're going to write a funding application between now and midnight. And see if we can get some funding for you to
Okay.
do a performance which would be called It's Bad Man.
Bad. Yeah, okay.
Bad.
Yeah.
What do you want to call it? It's bad or it's bad man? Or it's bad man?
It bad.
It bad.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
bad.
Yeah, Windrush tribute or something like that.
It bad.
Yeah.
Windrush tribute.
Oh.
Windrush.
Or it could be called Windrush Picnic.
Windrush picnic.
Well, you are a Windrush picnic anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. That's yeah. So yeah.
It's bad. Windrush picnic down.
The Windrush Picnic.
Yeah, yeah. You have two a subtitle in it. So that nice. Yeah.
Windrush picnic down. Yeah, I'm asking for Moqapi.
Oh, where's the button? Windrush Picnic, Liz.
No dem.
No, Windrush Picnic. Yeah, Windrush Picnic.
Or it could be It Bad, Windrush picnic, Moqapi Selassie.
Could be.
You
Or
can
it could
play
be
around with
Windrush.
it.
It could be Windrush Picnic. It bad. Moqapi Selassie. I know. Should we call it nylon or should we call it Lonai? What should we call it?
Die. Right.
Hey, Selassie.
Yeah.
Mr. Selassie, you too bad, man.
Right. We just want to welcome Alexis, who's joined us. Alexis Kier. She's heard from one of her other contacts that it's a he, she is she. I don't know, Alexis, what you are, sorry. Alexis, can you hear me speaking to you?
Yeah. Yes, okay, I can. Can you? It's a he. Hello. Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Right,
Hi.
Alexis, I do
So-
apologise. Yeah.
That's
so
all right.
introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. And sorry for popping up late notice and
Apologise.
I know very well Alison Edwards from the Lead Diasporian Stories Group, and Alison had passed me the invite, and actually just a small little connection. Dr. Fakordin, who I know is on this call, Dr. Fakordin's partner, Doreen, was my English teacher back in Luton a certain amount of years ago, which we won't mention. But
She's really poorly at the moment, Alexis. She's not
Okay.
well at all. And unfortunately, Jim has just gone off the screen. So
okay.
pass your regards
Well,
to it.
so I'll just okay, and I'll message directly. So just quickly to say, I mean, it's just so great to hear the presentations today. I mean, like June Elizabeth, I was a barrel child in reverse. So my mum I went back to St. Vincent, which is where my family are from. Me and my brother and sister, we went back to St. Vincent. I was born here. We went back to St. Vincent for a while. While my mum, who was a nurse also, she traveled to America to try and set up home for us there. My dad stayed in Luton to try and sell the house, and that didn't happen. But yes, St. Vincent is our cradle, and I now work with NHS myself, and I also have just this year written a book, Winwood Family, which is about the lives of not just the Windrush generation, going further back to George Alexander Grattan, this little boy with vitiligo who was brought from St. Vincent in 1808 and put on display, but all the way from George, all the way through to my parents' generation, lives of all these Vincentians who've come or been taken in some cases from St. Vincent to England, and some of them made it back, including me going
Alexis,
back.
what's your book called?
Called Winwood Family. Let me see if I can. I dropped you a link, Liz, just in our chat. I don't know if you can.
It's just come up on my screen.
Let me just. I'm not. I didn't come to advertise. I just came to say hello, by the way. But I'm not.
Right. Because you must have put it on the screen, and I must have clicked on it. And when I looked,
Okay. Let me just.
Magic, to be quite honest, Alexis, I believe in magic. If you run you believe.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, someone's fact. Yeah. But yeah. So my mum as well. Like you, June, she came here in 1960 to trained at the Whittington. But my mum and dad both from St. Vincent, but met here, met at a dance, as Moqapi is saying, in near Archway. But then, like so many families, black and white, moved up to Luton for a house with a garden, or where my dad could have his vegetable garden, and yeah, that's where we were raised. And yeah, Winwood families in part tribute to my mum, and not just my mum and dad, but that whole generation and all their experiences and stories, which the stories aren't disappearing, but that generation is, they're like lights, and you know, they're twinkling out. And if I can any small tiny part play anything to capture their experiences.
Wonderful. That's so wonderful. Would you just do me a real favour, Alexis? Will you put your email address in?
Of course, yes, I'll do it. Sorry, by the way, the reason I'm not on cam is because, like I said, I got the invite late and I was sitting outside when I joined the Zoom, and yeah, I'm not in a fit state to be on camera. Let me just say, I'll leave it at that. you can use your, but let me just put my email address in.
We're not going to hold it against you, Alexis.
Okay, then. If it was 20 years ago, I might have.
Might have shown up. Yeah, good. Well, that's wonderful. Alexis, I'm so glad you're here. That's lovely. So Alexis, Kia.
Oh, sorry, I spelled it wrong. That's a typo. Let me just do that again.
I can work that out. Yeah, at live.com.
That's
right. Yeah, I've got that right, haven't I? Alexis Kia at alive.com. Alexis Kia at live.com. Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for welcoming me.
I can't thank you enough. We put off long time since when you'd written that presentation, and it was good that we got that presentation done today. I'm really pleased. The story of the left behind us and the people who went back, like you, June Elizabeth, like you, Alexis, different, very different stories, but very interesting stories. And one of the things that I think it would be good, and Garrick, you're looking at mental health issues, is we need to really get below the veneer of what Windrush Day has become, started as, I felt. To begin with, it was about comfort for the Windrush generation, recognising them, recognising their stories, trying to get white people interested in recognising the Windrush story and understanding. And then as the different years have gone by, and bear in mind this was all through COVID, I think we started in 2018, didn't we? And then 2019, and then the COVID times. That recognition and that respect I felt was really, really important. But now I think we need to, and I was talking to Moqapi earlier today, as I was driving here, like you talk to people in Tanzania on your car phone, and I was talking to him and saying we need maybe to take the veneer off, and we need to really look at the stories behind it. We did the work last summer on trauma, didn't we, Garrett and June Elizabeth and Roland? But there are many other aspects to it as well. So I'm not going to extend this session overly much because I'm here in somebody else's university, using somebody else's room, and they haven't kicked me out yet. So nobody had booked the room. So I'm camping
Any
here.
minute.
I camp around the UK these moment times. So I hope that's all right, everybody. Oh, Alexis, you've put your shirt on.
Especially for all of you.
Just spoiling the fun.
So you look decent now. Eh? All right.
Oh dear, that's beautiful. So I'm just looking for what I do is I screenshot every now and again the screen, and then we've got some records of what went on. Anyway, that's just beautiful. So Simon has recorded this. When I press end in a moment or two, then it'll end the session for all of us.
Yeah.
Simon, if you're back, thank you very much indeed for doing all that you do. Roland, brilliant to have you with us yet again. That's lovely, and we'll be in touch about the 22nd. Garrick, absolutely marvellous. We'll be in touch in about 10 minutes about this bid that we're writing. Know what we're writing it for. We'll involve you in it, Moqapi. Sylvia, thank you very much for being so quiet, and thank you for joining us. That's just really beautiful. June Elizabeth, thank you for that wonderful presentation. Moqapi, Selassie, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, very good.
Moqapi is an amazing poet. That
Thank
show will be really, really good, Moqapi. So I'm quite sure how we'll word the funding, and it's only up to 5,000. So we've got 6 other ideas to fit in. So we'll fit it round somehow, Garrick. We'll have a talk.
Yeah.
And catch you as well, Moqapi. And Alexis, what a delight to have you join us. And we'd love you to come and tell us more about your book, and perhaps reflect on some of the issues.
I would love to do that. If that opportunity arises, I would really love to do that.
That would be beautiful.
Liz, just before you go, Liz, I did send a link to Global African Congress lobby on the 14th of June. And there's a couple of questions raised about MPs or people, you know, raising issues with their MP, but in particular, there's an issue about reparation, as Simon started a conversation. That's on the flyer. If we can try and circulate that, you know,
okay,
in our network. Yeah.
Send out a special link.
Yes.
I'm sorry this week's link was a bit on the late side, but yeah, we'll get there. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to
Yeah.
end, because that then ends the recording as well. So we won't have the chat after session. So wonderful to talk to all of you. Thank you, June Elizabeth. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Moqapi.
Okay, I'll go and have a cup of tea and a drink. 10 minutes, Liz. Okay. Yeah, then. Bye-bye.
All right.
Right, let's
Bye, everyone. Lovely to meet you all.
I'll send you a message, Liz,
Yes,
about some funding that we could get.
Good. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Happy
Oh,
birthday.
yeah. Bye. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye, everybody. One love. Bye.
Bye-bye.